Hey, you're watching Half Asian Tarot Queen, and I'm Elisa. Thanks for checking out my channel. I pre-pulled from several decks because I was just trying to make the reading go faster, but I'm starting out with the Radiant Wise Spirit Tarot. And yeah, it's a pretty interesting reading so far that's coming through. If you're new to the channel, thanks for checking it out. All the readings on here are timeless, and I don't really do like dates or zodiac signs, but it's more like storylines, and all the readings are kind of interrelated, so I kind of link related readings up here, and then I also arrange these readings on playlists of like storylines, which I'll put down below. So yeah, here we go. Oh my gosh. Okay. So if you've been looking at the readings that have been coming through lately, it's been really interesting because the last 4 readings before this reading, I got this one card called the Bat, which is from this animal spirit. And that card talks about like the void, or sort of like this period between death and rebirth. So it's just sort of like, I mean, I feel like we can see this all in the outer world, because there's definitely this state of flux that's happening where, you know, it's really clear, and it's been becoming more and more clear for some time, but like the way things were isn't coming back, you know, and there's this new way forward that we're going to all have to decide what that is for each of us, you know. But there's a lot of flux happening right now, and there's like new things coming online, and there's old things being destroyed, and it's just like really chaotic, you know, which is the card that comes out on the bottom of the deck, which is like the 7 of Cups. So it's just like there's all these options, which way to turn, which way to go, you know. I mean, you really have to like look inward and kind of follow your own guidance. Otherwise, you can really get lost in the shuffle in moments like this, because there's a lot of uncertainty in the world, you know. So we got the World, we got Death, we got the 8 of Swords, we got the 9 of Cups, and we got the 9 of Swords. So I think these cups, I mean, these cards that came out pretty much just echo what I was just saying, which is wild. So, you know, we got the World. So this is the end of one period and the beginning of another, and we're sort of like walking through the doorway into this new life, you know. And then that's followed by death. So, you know, obviously it's the same thing. It's just like the death of how things were, you know, it's over. And so this is bringing on a lot of fear and anxiety for a lot of people, you know, because there's so much uncertainty. It's very difficult, you know, but it's just like there actually is a way forward, you know, if you can get past those feelings, you know, and take your blindfold off. Like you're actually only being held back by your own fears. So this is a time for fearlessness, you know. And then we have this Knight of Cups coming forward with this offer of love. Hi. So if you're new to the channel, you might know or not that I take care of someone with dementia. And I've actually, it's been almost 15 months that I've been doing 24-hour care for someone with dementia, which is a crazy, it's a crazy circumstance. But there's also been like a lot of spiritual gifts that have come from this moment in time, you know. But it's funny because I'm like talking about this offering of love coming through, and then my mom comes in with this present that she wants to give me, you know. So she brought this necklace for me, which is and she brought this button of me when I was in high school. So yeah, an offer of love is coming in, you know, but then there's also all this fear and anxiety. So it's just like there's the end of one era, the beginning of another, you know. There's the shakedown happening, as also there's these new offers coming online, but it's very uncertain. It's very confusing. And this is really forcing us to all kind of face our fears and sort of become the master of our emotions. Like, that's how we're going to get through this moment. Like, that's the answer, you know? And it's interesting because that's coming through with some of the other decks too. So next, I'm going to go to the Animal Spirit, which is my newest deck, and I love, 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 love this deck. Okay, so I got on the bottom of the deck, I got the camel, and then we got the bear, and we got the lion. So this is really interesting because, you know, as I mentioned, in the last 4 readings in a row, we got the bat, which is the card of the void. And it's the period of, like, sort of nothing between the end of one thing and the beginning of another, where it's just like ground zero, you know? And that's the period of where there's, like, so much uncertainty, you know, because it's just like there's nothing. Like, we want to fill the space with something, you know? But that's also, like, a very necessary part of any kind of transformation, you know? So it's interesting because both of these spirit animals are sort of associated with the process of transformation. So the bear is all about sort of waking up from a deep slumber into this new life, you know? And so it speaks to this new beginning, and, like, this is a really moment of great opportunity. But, you know, in the beginning, when you first, you know, wake up and come out of the cave and, like, you know, open your eyes, and it's, like, kind of overwhelming, and there's, like, a lot of obstacles, you know, like, you got to figure a lot of stuff out in the beginning. So it's kind of an overwhelming moment, but it's the beginning of this new era, you know. And then we have the lion, and the lion is this card of transformation also, you know, but this is a card of what I was just talking about, like self-mastery. You know, the lion is all about self-mastery, you know. The lion is super concise, you know, like the lion is, like, got this sort of regalness, you know. So the lion doesn't, like, really get into the fray, you know, over this or that petty thing, you know. The lion is very efficient with its energy, you know, and so the lion isn't going to spend energy on anything that's not worth its time, you know. So it's just sort of like, I mean, that's part of self-mastery, and, like, knowing that your emotions are the fuel that drive all your manifestations. So you're not going to, like, blow them on just, like, petty dumb stuff, you know. And, like, that's the lion. Like, that's how come this lion became a master, you know, of their emotions. So it's just like, you have to be in command of this, and you have to understand how to redirect this energy to drive your manifestations. And that's, like, what's gonna, like, bring you through this moment of transformation, you know. I mean, that is ultimately where your power comes from. And then we have the camel, and the camel is also, in a different way, like, about self-mastery, because the camel's, like, a totally self-sufficient animal, you know, like, can go through all the desert, you know, and all this heat and fire. They can walk through the fire, but yet it's got all this water in its back, you know, to, like, kind of cool. This camel's going to stay cool under pressure, you know, like, because it's got this reservoir, you know, this inner peace. And so the camel's kind of got it going on, you know. But the camel's also, like, self-sufficient. So it's just like the camel doesn't need approval from other people about what the camel should do. Like, the camel is, like, on the camel's mission, and, like, is empowered, you know, and not distracted, you know. just staying true to the camel's destiny, you know? So this is a really powerful reading of empowerment, you know, but like having to like walk through this very intense transformative moment on the way there, you know? So, yeah, I pulled from a couple more decks. Okay, so next I'm going to go to the Urban Tarot, which I really love this deck. It's this deck, using New York City as a muse. And on the bottom, we have the Chariot. So this is a card of someone who's sort of taking the reins, taking control, and moving forward. So it's really interesting because, you know, like I keep mentioning, the last 4 readings before this reading, it was like the void, you know, it's like the empty space before this new path emerges. And like over and over with all the different decks, there's starting to be this, it's almost like the path before you becomes clear, you know, like it's finally, it's there. And what's crazy is that during this time that I've just, yeah, so as I keep mentioning, I take care of someone with dementia, so a lot of times there's like different pauses in my readings where I'll like have to leave and come back. And anyway, so in between the 2 decks, I stopped and I had to go leave, and so I went to my mailbox and checked my mail, and there was this book. My friend Christine sent me this book, and it's called The Royal Path, and it's this book all about tarot, and I'm super excited because not only I have seen this book and I wanted to get it, and but what's even crazier is that it's totally in alignment with this reading. It's beautiful. I love it. Thank you, Christine. I love it. Thank you. Okay, so anyways, taking the reins, and we have, so the story of this person that's taking the reins, so we have this person who's like hard at work, you know, really like making a dedicated effort or something. Like this person looks like he's like making watches, is like a watchmaker, you know, but this person is like making a diligent effort and like doing it, you know. And then we have the Ace of Swords, so like some truth being revealed and some new beginning happening in truth. And then we have the 8 of Swords, which interestingly, it's right on top of this other 8 of Swords, which is a card of fear and anxiety in the traditional deck. But in this deck, it's a card of interference, you know. So, I mean, it's really like you're not seeing the way forward. You're blocked because you're kind of blindfolded and maybe not seeing the truth, you know. So that's causing this interference. And then we have this character who's been coming up a ton in readings recently, and this is the Prince of Discs, but in this deck, he's the day trader. So, like, I mean, the story that comes through with this guy is that it's like, you know, he has maybe kind of like, it's almost like he's sold out, you know, like he's not really in alignment with his personal destiny anymore. He's just chasing the dollars. And so like this maybe has like led him down the wrong path, you know, that he's kind of like lost that connection. And interestingly, what's following him is the Queen of Wands, the public defender, you know, which suggests that like, you know, this guy might have done something shady, and that might be what's causing the interference for this person, you know. But the truth is coming out, you know. So this is like a classic tale, like, of someone who's like really doing the work, and maybe not necessarily motivated by money, but motivated by like excellence and like trying to do a good job, you know, and like maybe getting passed over and like not being recognized, you know, while this guy is like making all the dough, you know, but they're not really like developing a skill necessarily, you know, they're just like making trades on the computer. It's like the thing that like came up for me just now is like there's this big thing in the news about this GameStop stock where they like, you know, artificially inflated it, and you know, a bunch of people made a bunch of money, but like at the end of the day, like there's not really any substance to like something like that. And ultimately, I think the people that were involved in that deal got in trouble, and like it's now being investigated. So this is the classic tale of selling out, you know, but like in this story, it looks like the person who's doing the work is actually on the side of the truth, and the person who's kind of sold out is maybe like having to, you know, face that truth. So it's really interesting. And so I'm going to go now to the Mystical Shaman Oracle, which is my favorite deck. And at the bottom we have the Coyote. So the Coyote is a card about life's detours, and like, you know, like sometimes things don't go how you anticipated, or how you thought they were going to go, but everything happens for a reason. Like that's the message with the card, you know, like you might not see in the moment when this like disruption happens, and it might be like a complete pain, you know, because it's not what you were planning, but you might see the wisdom in it later, you know. But just trust and have faith that you're on the right track, because like good things will come of it, you know, even if it doesn't seem like it in the moment. So okay, so then we have Thunder, Middle World, Vision Quest, Pachamama, and The Witness. So this is like a really beautiful tale too, because it's just like this, you know, this speaks to a wake-up call, you know, and that's falling right over the world, which is the end of something and the beginning of something else. And it falls over this person who's like hard at work, you know, so like maybe this person who's kind of gotten passed over, and they've been working their butt off, you know, but haven't been getting recognized for it for like ever, you know. And so, but something's happening that's like a wake-up call that's happening with regard to whatever this situation is, you know. And then we have the Middle World. So this is a really auspicious card, because it's like when the heavens and the earth are in alignment, you know. It's just like the forces are aligned, you know. People used to make fun of me in my 20s because I used to always talk about when the forces were aligned, when like things just lined up and like things just worked out how they were meant to, you know. And that's what this card kind of represents, you know. It's like we have all these crows flowing over. There's like truth in this bubble of reality that's like the three-dimensional reality that we all, you know, inhabit. And it's interesting because it fell right on top of this truth card, the Ace of Swords, and it fell on top of the Death, you know. So whatever this truth is that's coming out, it's making way for this alignment between the heavens and the earth. And the Bear, it's like it falls right underneath the Bear. So the Bear is kind of like, you know, this person who's been in hibernation forever, but all of a sudden, like, you know, everything lines up and like things open up for this person, you know. Like maybe this person who's been working their butt off and like hasn't been getting recognized, but suddenly like the truth is coming out, and like things are going to open up for this person, you know. And then we have the Vision Quest. So this is a card of like having to face your fears, you know, and just like in doing so, like you kind of like you step into your destiny. And you know, it's a card of being fearless and following and being true to your path. And it's interesting because that fell right on top underneath the Lion, which is this card of emotional mastery, and a card of just sort of being elegant and like large and in charge and just like, you know, the master of your destiny. And that fell on top of these two cards of fear and anxiety. So like the trick, and I think this is a really important message, it's like if you want to step into your destiny, you have to face your fears. You have to like take control. You have to be the master of your emotions. And if you can, you know, harness that power and be in the driver's seat, that's when everything good is going to happen, you know. So then we have the camel, which this is this person who's kind of like, they're just like on their own path and they don't really need any kind of like reassurance or affirmation from anyone else. They're just like being true to, they're just doing, it's like, I'm just doing me, you know, like that's the camel. And it's like, even if things are really hard and even if like there's all these obstacles and even if like, you know, they're having to walk across the desert, like they got it, you know. And it's like underneath that we have Pachamama, which is the earth, you know. So like this person, the camel, has the support of the earth, you know. And like this is also, I mean, this card, because there's all this red, it like reminds me of like the root chakra. So it's just like the camel is just like rooted in their own destiny and they're not going to be swayed by like all the distractions that are around, you know. And so it's just like, it's interesting because that fell on top of this person who's kind of like sold out and like maybe this distraction, but then underneath that we also have this cup of love, you know. So it's just like, it's almost like canceling each other out. Like there's this like distraction, you know, but then there's this person like might not have the best intentions, but then at the same time like there's this cup of love that's being offered to this camel who's like figured out how to like root down, you know, into the earth and like be true to themselves. So it's just sort of like, huh, that's interesting, because in doing that, it's like they've kind of like locked the key into the gate, and then it goes into the witness, which this card is all about being in alignment with the highest good, with your destiny, and like being in this centered place where you're kind of like the master of your emotions, and like you don't need to be like clawing and like vying for whatever you're trying to achieve, because if you're in alignment, like you can just have faith and trust that things are going to unfold exactly as they're meant to do, you know. So it's interesting because that falls right on top of this fear and anxiety, and this looks like some sort of criminal situation, you know. So it's almost like there's this kind of like unsavory situation happening, you know, that's going on, but this camel is like sort of undeterred by it because they're rooted in their own destiny and they know that things are going to work out how they're meant to, you know. But meanwhile, there's a lot of drama and interference that's happening, but like it doesn't matter. Like, not for the camel, you know. Maybe for this person it does, you know. So it's really interesting because like I think there's also been like this whole thing that's been happening where there's been this great reckoning that's been happening, and like sort of like these two different destinies sort of like emerging depending on like how you might be in alignment with the truth, you know. So for like there's some people like things are like crumbling, and for some people like there's this new royal path emerging, you know. So it looks like both of those things are happening, you know, and like it's like almost like this changing where it's like for the longest time it just feels like, you know, going after the dollars and the bottom line has always worked. Like those are the people who always got ahead, you know, and that's just how it's always been. And like you kind of have to be unsavory to like get by, you know, in a lot of worlds, you know. But it's like it's almost like there's this shift happening where it's like, no, there's a new game in town and like the rules have changed. Like it's not about like just chasing after dollars. Like there has to be like something like more solid there, like to weather all the chaos and tumult that's just around everywhere. And like the people who are like anchored, who have something more solid, who are in command of their emotions and like are taking the spiritual path, like it's like in this new world, like those are the people that are going to come out ahead, you know. Like that's kind of how I'm taking this, which is a really positive message, which I'm like, I'll take that, you know. Like, I wouldn't mind that at all, you know. So I'm going to the Oracle of Seven Energies and I'm going to pick a final card. But yeah, like maybe that's the royal path, you know. I love it. Okay, so at the bottom, oh my gosh, the card is Beautiful Uncaging. It's interesting because there's this big heart and it's the 14th and Valentine's Day just happened. You know, I didn't do a reading for it or anything, but okay. The prison of guilt, a need for self-inventory, rigorous honesty, accountability, and making amends. At this time, you're being called to assess where guilt is playing a part in your life. Recognize how it's affecting you and others and address it so you can release from its grip. Guilt is a powerful emotional state capable of transforming difficult situations. It keeps you accountable for your actions when you've done something that causes harm. However, it can also feed a self-sabotaging cycle that fosters codependency and a distorted sense of personal power. Self-blame can lead to behaviors that perpetuate low self-worth. Have you done or said something for which you need to make amends? Have you disregarded a boundary or broken a promise? Guilt can make you aware of potential ways that you have given injury and show you how to redress the transgression. When you sincerely admit you are wrong and begin the process to fix it, this is an act of accountability, responsibility, and liberation. Take a moment now and consider when you have harmed others or yourself. This knowledge will free you from the story you will tell about it so that you're able to connect with truthful remorse. Now is the time for rigorous honesty as you take self-inventory with a neutral state of mind. A good question to ask yourself now is, why is there guilt here? You might be taking on a burden that's not even yours to carry. Pay attention, take action, and uncage yourself from the prison of your own making. Wow. So yeah, I mean, it's like this person looks like they're coming to justice. But that might be the source of some of this fear and anxiety that we're seeing all over this reading, you know. And it's like sometimes when people have done something wrong, they'll like project that onto other people instead of seeing it within themselves, you know. And sometimes, you know, people who are really empathic can take that on as their own and think, you know, maybe I did something wrong, you know. I mean, I feel like actually I personally have been going through something like that myself because like I am empathic and I have had a tendency to just like carry all this guilt around and then like unwittingly sort of carry and take on other people's burdens, which ends up like holding me back, you know. And this is like a big thing that I've like had to shed in life so that I can like, you know, be true to my own path, you know, and like become the master of my own destiny. So super interesting. We're cleaning house, and but it looks like it's gonna lead to good things. So we'll be back soon with another message.